long-term yoga practice, also a long-term meditation practice, I was under the assumption about how things should be done in particular ways. So one of my aspirations in this session is that we can perhaps not be stuck in like, oh, this is how it should be done. And so it's less about a particular shape and more about our sustainability. And this is certainly something I've experienced myself, kind of getting older, and I've got more and more interested in sustainability. So that's what the kind of emphasis is going to be. And, part of that emphasis is about this kind of knowing what we're bringing. So how our bodies are right now. So maybe you're feeling really happy to be here. Maybe out in the garden down there are all these squirrels. Maybe you have that kind of squirrel energy. You're kind of, wow, great. Or maybe a bit like, oh, flat, fatigued. So knowing our inner weather is vital to making things sustainable, doable. Personally, I think it's essential that we also acknowledge what you might describe as the external circumstances, what's going on out there, because in my view, they're inseparable, the external and the internal. Maybe a few of you have come across this poet, Audre Lorde. So Audre Lorde was, she died in, I think, the 90s, 20th century American poet, woman of color, socially engaged, very active, and speaking her truth. And some months ago, I came across this wonderful line, because you're kind of thinking, oh, maybe like, all this stuff going on out in that world. And then this is a bit like self-indulgent. I'm going to be like, looking at kind of meditation for the next like hour and a bit. So Audre Lorde, she said something like, taking care of myself is not self-indulgence, it's self-preservation. And that in itself is an act of political warfare. So by being here, I think, so this weekend, as some of you know, it's been quite stormy in England, in the UK. And so all these kind of winds like knocking us around. And so practice potentially can help us to be more grounded and more able to deal with the inevitable difficulties of life. So bearing in mind, I said about making this doable, what I was going to suggest is that you stand. If some of you are thinking, I really don't want to stand, then of course I can see, who am I looking at? Deirdre. I can feel free to stay in the chair if you're looking comfortable in the chair. So definitely feel free to stay sitting if you wish. Otherwise, come to standing. So doable means making sure the postures we take are appropriate. So from here, let's just take a few moments, as long as it feels comfortable for you. Of course, you can do this while sitting. Just kind of shaking off stuff. Shaking off stuff. And this is what animals will do when they're being shocked or frightened. They shake. I think this could perhaps be very beneficial for us human beings. We are also animals. Just kind of shake off stuff. So whatever you might have arrived with, just taking these moments as literally just shaking off stuff, shaking off stuff. And then gradually slow down your shake. You're like, you feel free. You're really like, wow, I love shaking. You feel free to the stick is shaking. And then standing, just allowing your arms to hang loosely down by your side. So principle for durability, for making sure what we do is sustainable, is as much as acknowledging out there in here, recognizing our uniqueness. So just as an example of uniqueness for myself, so I'm very much into this approach of like a multiplicity of spectrums. So for myself, the way my shoulders and the arms are constructed, I'm actually at quite an end of a particular spectrum. This is my arms naturally hang some distance away from my body. This is reasonably unusual. I can see some of your arms are really close to your bodies. For me to do that would require some muscular effort. So I'm just asking, just now, just allowing the arms to hang loosely down by your side. So for meditation, it's often said that there are 4 basic ways you can meditate. One of them is a chair. You can definitely sit in a chair. Another one is this, standing. That's the word meditation. Another one, I was actually doing this other form of meditation. I was at West London Buddhist Center this morning, and while I was waiting for the train back at Royal Oak Station, I was doing some meditative walking up and down the platform. So walking. And the 4th way of meditation, which is in some ways the most advanced, is lying down. Because frequently when we lie down, we fall asleep. And these practices, one of their aims is about waking up. So standing, as long as this works for you. So we're just going to spend just a few more minutes simply standing. A good question for practice for all of us as practitioners is, what do I do with my eyes? Different circumstances. If you're feeling really tired, I would recommend you keep your eyes open. If you feel a bit wobbly, probably a good idea to keep your eyes open. Certainly for some people, closing their eyes can cause anxiety, increasing anxiety. So then keep your eyes open. So this approach of adapting to how we are. So maybe your eyes are open, maybe your eyes are closed. And then just see if you can feel your feet on the floor. So you can do that whether you're wearing shoes and socks, whether you have, like myself, bare feet, whether you're sitting in a chair or whether you're standing. Just simply feeling your feet on the floor. You might perhaps notice that there's a constant shifting of weight in the feet. So now there could be reasonable stillness within the stillness, these movements. Just simply feeling your feet on the floor. which can be a way of being more grounded, that feeling. So to balance the grounding, see if you can bring your awareness to the crown of your head. Sometimes perhaps a brief touching of the crown of our head can be helpful. Your hands are very sensitive. So just an awareness of the crown of your head. Being curious as to what you may notice in that area of your body. It's highly likely the sensations are more subtle than, say, that feeling of feet on floor. So perhaps you might need to make a little bit more effort in noticing awareness right of head. And then if this could be comfortable, you might place your hands on your lower abdomen to play your chest. I'm going to stay here for another couple of minutes at most. Could you feel your body breathing? Without manipulation, just almost like the bare experience of our body breathing. Of course, our minds wander. Bring them right back. Just feeling your body breathing. And from here, for those of you who've raised your hands, release your hands. For those of you who close your eyes, take your time, gently raising the eyelids. And then eventually, let's come to sitting. So remember, this is all about making things doable. So for those of you sitting on chairs, do feel free to continue sitting on chairs. What I wanted to show you was just some different ways of sitting. I first wanted to show you a way of sitting where we fold our legs back, what some of you might call internal rotation of our hips. So I've just taken a couple of yoga blocks and I've put them in between my legs and I've folded my legs back. I know for some people, this does not work. So really encourage you to let go of the right and the wrong. You know, just as much as we were with the exercise of breath awareness, can focus, how does this feel in your body? We are all constructed differently. So this uniqueness, we are all constructed differently. So some of you, this will not be working. So if it's not working for you, just have your feet in front for a few moments. What could be helpful here? One example, it's just very gently easing your calf out, your lower legs, just giving you a little bit more space. Something else that could be helpful, I'm not sure how clearly you can see, my feet are just hanging off the edge. So rather a strong extension of the feet is a kind of a little bit of lessening of that extension. So this is internal rotation of our hips. Definitely for at least some people, this will be the most comfortable way to sit. Really good question when you're sitting like this is, what do I do with my hands? What do I do with my arms? Often it can be beneficial to have some support for them, such as if you have a hoodie, you can put your hands in the hood, in the pockets, or maybe you take a block or a cushion just so you have that little bit of extra support. So if you're sitting in this particular shape right now and you're thinking, wow, this is it, then feel free to stay sitting in that shape. Otherwise, what I was going to show you next is sitting. Actually, what I'll show you before that is this. So I know some of you have seen these before, meditation bench. And I've heard people describe these benches as game changers. So I'll just quickly show you with the bench. What happens with the meditation bench, these can be helpful, say, if you have knee issues and low back issues. So in contrast to that posture we just did, where we had our hips in internal, I'd call this hips in neutral. And again, it would be beneficial to have a support for your hands, whether it's a block, your pocket, maybe resting in a pocket. So that's the meditation bench. And now let me show you sitting with your feet in front. So you could call this hips in external rotation. For me personally, my kind of default way of sitting is I bring in my left foot and then I bring in my right foot. So I have a lot of external rotation in my hips. So this is not the way it should be done, because I want each of you to pay attention to what works well for your body. So I'm giving you this variety of options in the hope that perhaps something will really land with you, like, wow, I can do it this way. So maybe you do it like that. I know some people can sit like this. So I'll just board my right foot into a high up on the left thigh. You know, personally, I think this could be a too strong stretch into the ankle. So there's a lot of sickling of the ankle when you bring that foot high up. You know, obviously some people can do this and literally get away with it. And perhaps some people do this because somewhere they saw a picture of someone doing this, like say that statue just behind me, and they think that's the way it should be done. And they do this, and then after some time, they might feel, say, some structural weakness in their ankle. You know, I tend to think it's good to err on the side of caution and coming back to this idea of making things durable, so it's not about a shape, it's about sustainability. So this is one way of doing it, as I demonstrated. Lots of people will not have sufficient mobility in their hips to do this. And there can be this real danger of thinking, well, that's the way I can get enlightened. I remember my partner, she teaches meditation, and someone once said to her something like, can you get enlightened sitting in a chair? And she was like, can you get enlightened? So it's not about the shape. It's more about, let's talk about stability. So another way of sitting is having your legs crossed. And what I'm going to show you now, I think this can be very useful. Taking, say, a blanket or a towel and literally tucking yourself in. So taking the blanket, probably a bit better if you're slightly longer, actually. Taking this blanket and it's like I'm being held together. So in my experience, I found this really helpful, say, for someone who's got a lot of mobility in their body, someone who's got, say, issues with their knees, their hips, this sense of being held together. And I have come across a few people who have a strong aversion to this. So these are merely suggestions arising from my personal experience. So this would be a suggestion. So we're going to soon sit for a while. So consider for yourself, remember, there is the chair option. Maybe you have a meditation bench. My own practice. Sometimes I'll sit in a chair. Occasionally I'll sit on a bench. Sometimes I'll do that posture at my first show, the folding of the legs back, the internal rotation. Because a good idea is to alter how we sit. There can be a difficulty, say, if we always sit the same way repeatedly, how beneficial that might be for our body. As I said, my kind of default, this is my default, left and then right. So some days I'll do it the other way around. And as I already said, some days I'll do an internal rotation, some days I'll sit on the chair. So deciding for yourself, this is the kind of question, how do I sit most comfortably? Just remember, there's a really good way, like obviously these meditation benches, they're not necessarily cheap. You can actually sort of construct something similar to a meditation bench. Say if you've got a couple of yoga bricks, then you put a block on top of it like this, then you fold the legs back either side. So it's sort of a bit like a meditation bench. So setting up your shape. Conscious it's December, 8th of December, I think, 8th of December. So maybe like warmth. Also, very kind of simple point is like, so I'm wearing kind of loose fitting clothes. I have obviously meditated in a pair of jeans. It's doable. However, for me, it feels more comfortable to be wearing clothes that are fairly kind of soft and loose. So perhaps you're putting a blanket around yourselves. Now we might look like one of those photographs. So make yourselves comfortable. And then there's this feeling. So this is, you could have this feeling sitting in a chair. However you might arrange your lower body, of almost like an upwardness and an openness. And that can arise, some of you have heard that expression, sit like a mountain. Upward and open. And that can arise from the stability of your base, like feeling grounded. And then it's rising up. As we did when we were standing, you choose what you wish to do with your eyes. Maybe your eyes are open. If they're open, what I'd recommend is to soften your seeing down, what you could describe as quietening eyes. Maybe they're closed. Remember, as I said earlier, closing your eyes causes anxiety. If closing the eyes and you feel waves of tiredness, keep the eyes open. So in our practice, we're going to do a 4-stage practice. Remember when we were standing, we were just doing that, feeling a breath in our body. So in this 4-stage practice, the first stage, we're just going to mark our exhale. You know, I know there are different ways of doing this. The way that I like to do this is just at the end of the exhale, say the word exhale in my mind. Do that in your own language. If you're really fond of counting your breath, feel free to count. However, sometimes I think a consequence is that we become experts at counting. And then the second stage, just before you breathe in, marking that. That's the word inhale. Remember, feel free, of course, to do this in your most common language. And the third stage is more kind of a whole body awareness breathing. And the fourth stage is more specific. So having created the conditions that you just set, so there's a sustainability in your shape. Of course, you can move if necessary. So do not feel stuck that you must stay. Having chosen what you wish to do with your eyes, just being aware of your body breathing. And just at the end of each exhale, each out breath, marking that. This is the inevitability of mind wandering. Equally, the ability to bring our mind back. Just marking the exhale, just at the end of that breathing out. And now changing the focus, just marking the beginning of your in-breath. Just as you breathe in, marking that, however you wish to mark it. Without manipulation, without control, we're just breathing, just marking beginning of the in-breath. changing the focus. Now being aware of your whole body breathing. Remembering, of course, you can change your shape if there's a increase in discomfort. Give yourself permission to change. And then just that settling back into stillness and reasonable stillness. Being aware of your whole body breathing. So the final stage is being curious. Where did you feel the breath first in your body? This is a practice of inquiry. Maybe around some people feel it around their chest sometimes. Tip of nose, nostril, maybe back of throat. So wherever you might feel the breath, the kind of strongest feeling of breath in your body, gently keeping the awareness of that place. And of course, acknowledgement of mind wandering. And that knowledge that we all have the ability to gently bring our minds back. So perhaps the way you could close the practice, if you wish, just bring your hands so the palms are pressing. You could perhaps soften your chin towards your chest. Something I do in my own practice. And with this, we dedicate all our actions, our inspiration, to the realization of a true nature awareness, which leads all sentient beings to awakening. May all beings everywhere experience complete freedom. We dedicate all our actions and our inspiration to the realization of the true nature awareness, which leads all sentient beings to awakening. May all beings everywhere experience complete freedom. So from here, for those who raise their hands, releasing their hands. For those who close their eyes, take your time, gently raise your eyelids. Eventually, raising your head. So for me personally, so we all come to practice for different reasons, many different forms, as you know, many different forms of practice. For myself, I feel that, these kind of, like say, just that simple breath awareness can be a great way of being more here. And then in being more here, then that can remind me to be grateful. Remember that exercise at the beginning, the like, what do you feel grateful for? And just this understanding of the preciousness of life and also the precariousness of life. So for me, practice is about hopefully helping my eyes to be more open, even though often I practice with my eyes closed, but being able to see more clearly. So I really welcome questions. So as George was talking earlier, do feel free perhaps to put questions in on the chat bar. Also, just raise a hand. And I think this is one of the ways we learn together. So remember this idea of community and the realization of like we have often similar experiences. So if anyone's got any questions, whether that's a chat bar or raised hand, then George will facilitate. Or maybe everything's answered. Some of you might have seen this card. So this is a picture of mine and my partner's cat. And he's saying, wake up. And his full name is Lord Vajra Rinpoche the Brave, or for obvious reasons, we call him Vajra. And on the back, there's this piece of prose from a Tibetan teacher, Tsongkhapa. Some of you might be familiar with Tsongkhapa. And what's it begin? This human birth is precious, an opportunity to awaken. So in a way, that's all we need to know. This human birth is precious, an opportunity to awaken. But this body is impermanent. Ready or not, one day I shall die. So this life I must know as a tiny splash of a raindrop, thing of beauty that disappears even as it comes into being. The karma I create shapes the course of my life, but however I act, life has inevitable difficulties. No one can control it all. Only the Dharma can free me and others from suffering forever. Therefore, I recall my heart's longing for freedom and resolve to make use of every day and night to realize it. So that's something I'll recite pretty much every day before sitting. For those of you who would like a copy of this card, I printed up loads of them. If you'd like a copy, you can always email me through my website. So George will put my website details up on the chat bar. So questions? There is a question. George, do you want to read that out, please?
Yes. From Josephine. What tips do you have for cultivating gratitude? And who was the teacher?
How do you mean the teacher?
I think she might have been speaking about what you just
that piece.
Probably.
So that's so if you were referring to that, Josephine, that's Sangha, and he's like 1400s, long time ago. Tips for cultivating gratitude. Take a moment. Pause. Look up. You know, we're, as I'm sure many of you know this, we can be hardwired to see the difficulties. And, you know, that has been useful for our survival as a species. However, in my view, it's now become deeply problematic because we just see the problems. And I really want to be clear, you know, it's not about denying difficulties, but I think gratitude is a muscle. It's obviously not a muscle, but it is, if we approach it like a muscle, we need to exercise gratitude. So say, just take a moment. It's like, wow, this body. It's like, wow. It's like, I remember being on a meditation retreat some years ago, and I was thinking, oh, I've got a bit of a tummy. You know, this is what happens to men over 50. Oh, I've got a bit of a tummy. And then I had this realization, however, everything is working well within. So that's much more important than having a bit of a tummy. The fact that everything, I'm crossing my fingers and I'm touching wood when I say this, everything is current. So it's that I do think kind of gratitude, we need to exercise gratitude. We need to, you know, maybe before going to sleep, you just think of 2 or 3 things where you felt, oh, that was good. Whether it was like seeing a flower, whether it was noticing the wind take the leaves off the trees, whether it was stroking a cat, whether it was an interaction with a friend. So gratitude, exercise gratitude, cultivate gratitude. And a crucial part of that is that sense of pausing. Because so often we're in such a rush. We all have the agendas and the list of things to do and the tasks that must be done. Just trying to find glimpses within all that. Thank you. I hope that's helpful, Josephine. Other questions?
No, but let me share something on the wake of that you just said. Something that I've learned a few years ago about gratitude. I don't know about you people, but I had the habit of, I like to offer and give and be present. But whenever someone tries to offer or give something, there's always this, oh, no, let it be. You know, you go somewhere with a friend and they said, oh, I'll pay you the coffee. No, it's for me. Don't do that. Just be grateful. You know, just thank people. Okay, you want to pay the coffee? It's fine. Thank you. Be grateful. That's one way of being, you know, just and appreciate the other person's gesture. It's something that I've learned.
Yeah,
Because not even
the skill of receiving.
Exactly.
So someone's raised their
Sholopit Tutsin is raising her hand. So
hello.
Go ahead, unmute yourself.
Thank you, Josh. You've been here early morning. He's doing great with my name. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for the practice. And one thing that's coming up, especially during the holidays, I am, I am grateful I have family. I have to say it out loud and often remind myself, yes, I'm grateful. At the same time, we're dealing with some turbulence and family dynamics, and to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna spend time with my younger siblings this holiday because, situations and my parents are not gonna be here. So when they're here, I do spend time with my younger siblings. My other siblings are not like here; they're in other countries that I get along with, but it's too hard to catch a flight right now, and a flight's ridiculously priced right now. When I do talk to them on the phone, um, it just feels that it's not like very united in my family right now, and like it feels like a dark blanket between this dark energy between me and some of my siblings, um, younger ones, not all of them. We're five of us, and I'm like, no, I cannot go through that and be with them during the holidays. My dad's not gonna be here. My mom's not gonna be here. I'm not gonna go with them and their extended family, and um, I already tried during Thanksgiving and my dad was there. It was pleasant and unpleasant. And I know there's that saying that says, if you want to practice mindfulness, be with your family. But at the same time, it's like, no, I don't have to. Like, I think I'm going to be with a friend of mine that I doesn't have any family. She's from Iran and she doesn't really have any family. Every year she's alone on Christmas. And I feel like I'd rather spend it with her and not feel guilty that I'm not going to be with my immediate family, which is my two younger sisters. And just be grateful that they're here and they invited me. They did invite me, it was my sister-in-law that invited me. Um, I don't know, it's like, for them, it's like you can tag along because you're an immediate family, but it doesn't feel that close. Um, so dealing with that part of gratefulness, and then this aspects of also love and kindness for having them around, but still feeling like I can use some space, like not be.
And lots of what's the word, humanness there, of being, being pulled in different directions and feeling different responsibilities. And I remember someone saying that it was something like their family didn't like it when they were a Buddhist, but liked it when they were a Buddha.
Mm.
So, behaving with kindness, and at the same time recognizing that potentially sometimes we need to move away from certain people. And I know particularly this kind of time of year can be difficult. Whether it's difficult for loneliness, and then some people can feel very alone when they're surrounded by people. And some people can feel very connected when they're completely on their own. We're all these strange kind of mixes of things. And I think I really believe in this kind of idea of like looking at, what can sustain us. So, gratitude, that's something that can sustain us. Sometimes having boundaries of like knowing sometimes we need to say no, and we cannot be doormats for other people to walk on. And that can be really challenging to say that and to set up kind of boundaries. I'm not going to pretend it's easy. Unfortunately, it's not. And I think a lot of this is just trying to do our best, learning, living. I totally make loads of mistakes. I'll continue to make mistakes until I die. But hopefully the mistakes get are less damaging than they were in the past. And, hopefully I'm learning from the mistakes that I've made. And, this is the dance of life.
Yeah, and I like your sweatshirt. You like it to go down on the table when I'm around them. Love and kindness, grateful, like remind them because they make comments at the dining table, which kind of not pleasant to hear. And I'm like, what?
We all need reminders. In fact, that piece from Sangha is sometimes called the 4 reminders.
Oh,
We all need reminders. Thank
yeah.
you. Other questions?
Thank you.
George, is there anything in on the chat bar?
No, just another comment from Leslie. She shares that she uses a gratitude journal. Writing things down at the end of the day helps me focus during the day and imagine what I might write.
Yeah. And keep things simple. Don't think, oh, I should. I sometimes talk about shouldism. I should. Let go of shouldism. Just write down, as I said, just 2 or 3 things. Don't think, oh, I must write down a list of 20 things. And oh, no, I can't remember 20 things. Oh, no, I'm a failure. We can be so good at giving ourselves a hard time, whether that's just in regular life and also that's on the meditation cushion. Oh, I'm a bad person. I got distracted. Like, this is normal. We all get distracted. I remember when I was first teaching meditation at the end of yoga classes, and I would say, like, if you get distracted, and then quite quickly I realized, well, how foolish is that? Because everyone gets distracted. We all get distracted. And then what can be fascinating is, well, what are your distractions? Are they distractions about, personally, I'm a planner. I spend a lot of time planning 3 years' time. Or maybe you're someone who's more kind of revisiting the past. Or maybe you just kind of drift off into some like pleasant daydreaming. Or maybe there's a lot of kind of harsh judgment. We're all different, but we all get distracted, in my view. Sophie, any questions? I know Sophie, so I can say that directly to her. It's lovely seeing you, Sophie, by the way.
Yeah, it's not a question. It's an observation that because I work as a psychotherapist, I noticed that one of the things which is very simple but very effective is reminding people of gratitude, because they don't. A lot of people, they have a lot of things, they have a lot of, but they can't see it, so it's a bit sad. So just doing that, just what you're saying, is very helpful.
I think personally, again, without denying difficulties, but we live in such abundance. And, maybe for like a few people here, you are living in a war zone. Many of us are not currently, at least, living in a war zone. Many of us, we have food security, I've got a roof over my head. There is this sense of, looking at things that are wrong. And so again, I want to be really clear. I think, there are enormous difficulties in this world. And I believe as practitioners, we need to engage. We need to be socially engaged. And part of that is also recognizing all that we have and appreciation. Thank you, Sophie.
Well, no more questions, no more comments. Just,
Oh, someone's raised their hand. Josephine.
Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Well, I already asked a question, so thank you for your patience, but I just wanted to share a story. Last night I was at a Christmas party for work, and like a lot of workplaces, can be a hierarchy of who matters and who doesn't, and I could see my mind working with that, noticing who the CEO talked to and who didn't get spoken to. So in my mind was running through that. And then I had this counter voice saying, well, I'm the best person in the room. There was a way I was diminishing myself. And then in the middle of the party, I thought, no, I'm the best person in this room. But then on this call today, I had this insight, well, we're all the best people in the room. And that felt a little bit scary. So I kind of tried out again, well, I'm the best person in the room, just kind of as a counterbalance. But I realized I was doing it more as a counterbalance to lift myself up. But I also did have that realization, we're all the best people in the room. And then I started retracking who was present at the party and sending them loving kindness. So I appreciate that. And I think that's the kind of wisdom that comes to me when I meditate. And I'm really grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Josephine. And I love that story. And what a skill to hear these different voices. Because we all have these voices and they're constantly going on. And to kind of, I think when we see them, when we kind of give them some space, and almost like we're smiling at the voices. And as you said, so you go from this place to that place, and then, what a gift it is to be in this human body. And, these bodies, as I'm sure many of us are very aware, they're time limited, and we can spend a lot of time doing ourselves damage rather than appreciating what we have. Thank you, Josephine.
Okay. Candice, you've raised your hand, so please unmute yourself.
Hello. Thank you very much for the practice, Norma and Josh, for facilitating through Sangha. My question is, what is meditation? Because I was thinking at the beginning when we were studying already the standing meditation and sitting, and then you mentioned at the train station we're pacing back and forth, that will you see how more on our feet out. So it's meditation being the present moment. So can it be like live reading? So just be interesting to hear what is meditation.
What's it? It's about 35 people here, and you've already got 35 different answers to that question, Candice. And meditation. Well, for me personally, meditation is a reminder to be more here, and rather than being somewhere else, because it's about being here. And also, and this kind of touches on, say, what Josephine and Sophie were talking about, this. I think there's also that sense of like cultivating particular qualities and encouraging this sense of being. So you're not that far from here, Candy. So I'm sure you've had like stormy weather in the last couple of days. So, this is life. Life is stormy weather. Life is like the high winds. Some of you will be very familiar with the worldly winds. And, practices that can help us to have that sense, like the center, the equanimity, whatever kind of terms you want to use, but somewhere rather like we're gripping, we're rigid because the winds. It's like we can be a bit softer. And so rather than putting a lot of energy into the grip, and it's like grip, we can be a bit more at ease. And that, in my view, is a better way to live. So maybe meditation can be. I never would say for everyone. I think this is really important. For a few people, meditation might not be helpful. But I think for me, meditation, so just going back to so Sophie's known me for a long time. So, the changes, I feel the changes within me from like, say 20, 30 years ago, over time have been quite significant. And I prefer me as me now, in some ways, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
So George, any other questions?
No other questions. Just Sholopitsin was sharing that she would love to have your email to get the cat.
Can So my website, and I'm really happy if anyone would like a copy of this card or 10 copies, just email me. And also I have a monthly newsletter. So if you'd like to receive it, I know a few of you already receive it. If you'd like to receive it, just put in your details on the chat bar or contact me through my website.
Yes, I've posted your website.
Thank you.
And you feel free to put your emails in the chat if you'd like to, and then Norman will reply.
Shall we do jazz hands?
Yes.
Come on, Sophie, do jazz hands. So thank you so much for hosting this, George, and for
Thank you.
Sangha. I really appreciate being here. So do stay in touch. Oh, and here comes the cat. Here's Vajra. Come here, Vajra. He's hovering at the doorway. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you all.
I'll just go. Here he is.
The big bird.
They were just looking at your card. So thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, friends.
Candies.
See you soon.